He knew my name, my laugh, my scars. But I swear, I'd never met him before until he told me I died in 2045 as his wife. I met him on a gray Tuesday afternoon in Cambridge at the old bookshop tucked between a florist and a tea room, the kind of place tourists skip but locals love, with creaky floorboards and secondhand pages that smell of stories too old to tell again. And he stood there in a charcoal coat, water dripping from the ends of his sleeves, staring at me like I was the ghost, not him, until he whispered my name, Maya, and my fingers froze mid-page because I hadn't told him. And something in his voice strained, soft, terrified wrapped around my ribs like a memory I didn't own. He said his name was Eli, and he said he was from the year 2045. At first I laughed, thinking he was mad, until he began describing things I hadn't yet lived, how I'd meet him again next year during a library renovation, how I'd cut my hand on a nail and joke that the future better have plasters, how I'd marry him in the rain with ink smudges on my fingers, and die in his arms during the new London riots of 2043, holding a notebook that held our entire life in scribbles. I told him to leave, but that night, I found a letter shoved under my door written in my handwriting, signed with a name only I used, mentioning dreams I hadn't yet dreamt, and I couldn't breathe. The next morning, he was at the shop again, smiling softly, watching me with the kind of ache you only carry when you've lost someone twice. I followed him, not because I believed him, but because part of me was terrified I might. Over the days that followed, he told me stories, how we built a life in a world slowly tearing itself apart, how we kept a secret journal hidden under the floorboards, how I loved gardenias even when they were outlawed for water rationing, how my voice calmed riots once, just once, before the explosion. And then he showed me the scar behind his ear, the one I had in my dreams, and a chipped necklace I'd made at 13, but lost on a school trip to Dover. I screamed at him, accused him of cruelty, of obsession, of trickery, but he just looked at me and said, I promised I'd find you again, even if it killed me. And something inside me cracked, because I believed him. I started dreaming things I'd never known, screaming in languages I didn't speak, waking with bruises I couldn't explain, hearing static when clocks hit 11:45 p.m. He said time had rules, but love didn't. He said he wasn't meant to return, that the agency would find him, that this version of me wasn't supposed to remember, but I did, in flashes, in smells, in the way his hand fit mine like a memory rehearsed over decades. The day the power flickered across the city and the birds stopped chirping, he grabbed my hand and said, It's happening. I asked, what? He said, They're resetting me. I begged him not to let go, but the moment the clock struck midnight, he vanished into light and silence. Days passed, weeks. I thought I'd made it up. Until one morning, I walked into the shop, and behind the register sat a letter, in his handwriting, dated 2047. You'll remember fully on your 34th birthday. Keep the journal safe, and Maya, I loved you in every version of time. The story ends with me standing on the bridge in Cambridge, holding the old, torn notebook I found beneath the shop's floor, and whispering into the wind, I remember.